Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome to the first of hopefully many of my eBay UK sales reports. So I am a collector, but I also resell Pokemon cards on eBay and on a couple of other platforms. But what I've decided to do is to start to build a report that helps me look at all of my eBay sales and hopefully strategize on what I can do to help grow this reselling thing on the side to help build this side hustle that I have. If you think this is something you're going to find useful in the future as well, feel free to subscribe so that you can see all of the future reports that come out on this channel as well. I'm very excited about this report. It took me a little while to put together, but overall I think it helps me really focus on what I can do to help grow my business. I hope you find the information useful or at least interesting and a slightly different take on what you can expect from a kind of what you're used to seeing from a kind of like business report kind of thing. I know a lot of other content creators in the space do kind of like daily updates on like the exact cards that have sold, and whilst I think that is interesting and I love looking at that stuff as well just as much as you do, I don't I think there's a bit more of a gap of like, well, what does that actually mean? Are there trends? Are there certain things that you can pick out that people are buying and things that you can focus on to help really grow that a little bit further? So as an example, if there is a set or a certain era that people are buying a lot more, there's a lot higher percentage of sales. And maybe that's something that you can look at in more lots that you're looking at, or maybe in kind of your pack openings or whatever. It's like that kind of different area to focus. And maybe that means you can kind of tier or maybe pay a little bit extra for that kind of stuff when you see it out in the open or out in the wild or available for sale. But I don't feel like there's that quite as much of that strategic angle, and that's hopefully something that I'm gonna be able to help look at here and show you guys from my perspective, see what's selling, see what we can do to help grow our business further. Now, a couple of caveats that I do want to add at this point in time. I am very aware that this is going to be based on what I have available. My inventory is very, very small, particularly for an online business. So the confidence level of some of these insights may not be super strong. So with that in mind, don't take it as gospel of what is working for me is going to work for you, and therefore that's exactly what you should do. I'm hoping to show what is currently working for my business doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for yours. Everyone's business works slightly different, so maybe it's not the right thing for you. And yeah, again, just to confirm, as I say, like my volume as well is also quite small at the moment, so the insights are quite weak. They're not necessarily like statistically fully relevant, but still hopefully it gives me a good insight on what I can do to potentially look at growing this in the future. Anyway, that's enough of me here. Let's go jump over to the desk and start looking at the report.
Alrighty guys, well welcome to desk mode. I'm still figuring out the best way to do this, but I hope this is okay. Yeah, anyway, also welcome to the dashboards. I do quite like this dashboard. It took me a lot of time and effort to put this together, but it seems like it's in a good spot now, and I'm still iterating on it and tweaking it. But hopefully it's something you find valuable as well. So as much as I said before, I don't necessarily want to go through like all necessarily the day-to-day sales. I did want to give some kind of top level numbers of what happened throughout last month. Now, obviously, we're a bit late into August by the time this is coming out, but still, let's go over July, see what we've got, and then hopefully we'll follow up on this in a couple of weeks' time when we get to the end of August, and we can take a look at what has gone well for us in August. So again, as I was saying about the small inventory, currently just over 1,000 cars listed. This is purely looking at eBay. I will hopefully in the future integrate card market and card trader and see if we can figure out a way to kind of separate that into different sections. But overall, I'm quite happy with the performance that we've had considering the number of listings that we've got. 1,000 listings, 82 sales, 7.5% sell-through rate. I believe that's quite on the high side. Just over £300 in revenue with an average order value of 376. I'm not going to lie, as a private seller, it's been quite difficult to generate multi-card orders. They do come through every now and then. I think it was only maybe one or two throughout July where we did get a multi-card order, but that's okay. Um, at the moment, just selling through the cards is good. It gives me the experience so that when we start to scale, I know what I'm doing. So the first thing that I wanted to kind of add to kind of look at is looking at the listings by era and by rarity, just so that we have a good overview of what we have and we can perhaps see where we're overexposed or where we um, could increase. So for an example here, Mega Evolution is actually perhaps a bit on the lower side when you compare it to the number of Scarlet and Violet that we've got. We've only got about half there, so maybe that's something to look at. And also sort kind of if you look at the old stuff, probably those combined are probably about what we've got from Scarlet and Violet. So I'd say probably two Explosion Scarlet and Violet, or percentage-wise, it's taken up too much by Scarlet and Violet. So I think I'm probably going to start trying to focus on, or I have been anyway, but start working through some of my older bulk that I've got and try and um, get some of that listed to try and reduce that dependency on kind of some of the more modern stuff. Looking at rarity, I mean, this is probably not going to change month over month. You know, it is mostly your commons, your uncommons that you're going to have listed because that is what comes in the bulk. But I thought it was worth mentioning the different rarities that we have, and so we don't have much of many listings that are in the kind of higher end categories. But that's, you know, percentage wise, that makes a lot of sense. We do have a lot of commons listed with just, you know, regular commons. We do have a decent chunk of hollows, reverse hollows. I'd probably like to boost that a little bit so that they're a bit more even in scale. So yeah, something else, but obviously they're a lot rarer to come across. So we'll see how we get on. So then if I go down here, still looking at the listings, um, quite a lot of perfect order, I would say. Also a decent chunk of 151s is not really moving for me, but again, it's just, you know, the regular commons that I have. I don't really have anything that's reverse hollow, but I thought here was be quite an interesting view to have. And if I kind of break it down by 151, sorry, by Scarlet and Violet era, you can see 151 is the one that we have the most of. Then it's Temporal Forces. To me, that makes sense, as Temporal Forces is the first set that I kind of opened. So I had a lot of that just lying around in my bulk box. So it makes sense that that's on the higher side. So look at Mega Evolution and see how we're doing there. Okay, so it's more perfect order. So I did have a booster box of that I opened myself. And then Chaos Rising is on just following that up. So I don't actually, well, obviously it makes sense actually, because I think Pitch Black may not have been released at that point, or only very recently released. So it makes sense, but I guess, you know, it's probably worth me trying to get some of that listed and kind of react quickly to the new sets coming out to capture all those people that are trying to look for those. So something just in general as a note for myself to look at as well. Also got listings by Pokemon. Not really anything here I want to touch on, but good to see Eevee at the top. Popular Pokemon, as we know. So yeah, good to see that one on the higher side. So I thought this was interesting, particularly I think on the sales versus the inventory, and this does make a lot of sense. But reverse hollows taking up just over 25% of the inventory, or closer to a third. But taking up over a third of the sales, and also on the hollow. I think with this, the reason that that is I believe in my listings for the things like the illustration rares and the hyper rares, they're listed as hollows. So that makes sense as to why that is so high. Regular hollows that are kind of on the common uncommon, I don't believe move that well. We do get a okay amount, but I believe that's why that is such a high proportion. And that makes sense anyway, because, you know, illustration rares, they're the ones that you kind of want to shift through quite quickly. So yeah, but perhaps we can see that a bit more going through sales. So if we go through sales by era, Mega Evolution is actually the highest that I had in July. So I guess that shows how, particularly with it being like more perfect order driven, that it's kind of the newer stuff is still selling pretty well on eBay, at least for me. So, you know, I think again, as I said earlier, trying to like really focus on getting that new stuff listed quickly, which makes a lot of sense. And Sun and Moon as well, also taking up a lot of the sales, which is quite interesting. Um, yeah, like significantly more than the Sword and Shield era. So yeah, uh, interesting there. And yeah, I think here is where you can kind of see again we got hollows that have been sold. Okay, here we go. So I guess this is where we can drill into a bit more Unbroken Bonds. That seems to be the set from Sun and Moon. I'd say that is probably, yeah, Unbroken Bonds. That's the one that is driving a lot of the sales there. So again, this is where I'm saying maybe this is where we can start to focus on looking at that as well in a little bit more detail. So Meowth, actually, I think this one was from Unbroken Bonds. So if I recall correctly, there was a Meowth that I had listed from Unbroken Bonds. I'll flash it up on screen if that is the one I'm thinking of. And this one was quite interesting. And again, I think this is the power of the combined duplicates listing over variation listings as well. Not that variation listings are that relevant for this point, but having I think with the eBay algorithm having multi-quantity, I think I had three listed after the first one sold within the same day. The second one sold the following day, the third one sold. That only happens really when you have the multi-quantities. eBay sees that people are buying it, so they push it more, so people buy it. So yeah, quite an interesting kind of bit of evidence on that, I would say. But yeah, uh, worth noting out. So this is where I think we're starting to get in a little bit more of the interesting stuff, not just the like, raw, this is what happened. Let's take a look at the trends. So month over month, Mega Evolution up, Scarlet and Violet down. I think this is also due to the amount of listings that I had in each of those eras, and that I listed more Mega Evolution in July than what I did Scarlet and Violet, so therefore you're selling more. Makes a lot of sense. And some of the older stuff also up. Again, I think like X, Y, Black and White, I don't think I would have had anything listed in June. So it makes sense that it's going to be up. And this is where, again, I think over time, it's where it's going to be um, a lot more valuable for as the inventory grows, the business grows, where you can kind of see those trends month over month, and that's where you can start to pick things out a little bit more. But yeah, it does seem, as I say, like it's with the hollows, reverse hollows that we're increasing on our sales, and those that are just your regular commons, uncommons, or no finish, they're not really selling. Quite interestingly though, we did have less illustration rares sell month over month. I think I still had a decent amount of collections in, but one thing I did change, so I started to go a little bit more aggressive on the pricing, but add buy it now with offers to all of those listings. And the reason I did that was because I was of the hope that if I added the with offers section, that I'd get more offers in from buyers and them wanting to get a deal essentially, because I feel like that's what everyone wants. Don't know how successful that's really been on the illustration rares and up. So I might take a look at that for maybe September. Maybe I'll take that off and see if we get any more success. Um, yeah. Okay. One to think about. But cool. That's what we have there. Okay, so advertising performance now. So this is just taking the kind of like eBay statistics that they share on kind of like your advertising. Now you can see this is obviously on the up. We did actually kind of like soften in our growth trajectory from May to June, but we did strike up in July. This is expected. I took a decision to increase my advertising spend in July, just as a little bit of an experimentation to see if we really did boost the impressions, but also with the expectation that in August to reduce that significantly. So my base was 3.1%. The 0.1 was just to kind of hope that I got a little bit more um, spots compared to those that just put 3 and put the whole numbers in, just a small little trick to see if we can get a little bit of a boost compared to some others. That was it from, April to June. In July, I upped that to 4.1%. We don't have a kind of like month over month view here necessarily where I can kind of show that. But now what I've done in August is reduced to 2.5. So again, taking it down a little bit below where we were before. And I want to see now where we get with the impressions and whether it seems like that's actually helping or kind of like trying to assess a little bit more the impact of the advertising. And I kind of want to do this on like a month scale because I feel like at that point you're getting the monthly trends. So you're getting the people that are getting paid at the end of the month. You're getting the all of the weekends in there. You're hitting any kind of like seasonality kind of like throughout the month. So I feel like you get a better impression there. Whereas if you do something like week over week, there can be fluctuations even in that sense of just what's happening in that week. So I think more to come from this in the future months. So we'll see how we get on. And you can kind of actually see that here from the kind of like advertising down the bottom. So yeah, dynamic weird listings. So one other thing that I have is some like accessories or not necessarily Pokemon cards. I have renamed this and kind of adjusted the strategy there. So that's for things that are like code cards or energy cards or tins, dice, anything like that that I'm going to have listed. And what I've wanted to try and do with that is to just really boost that to a higher percentage. And I wanted to see what happens with the kind of like dynamic ad spend. So I've actually got here, I had it at 13% as the max and dynamic between there. I have adjusted that, but we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks when we go through the August statistics. Okay, so now moving on to one of our second to last sections, I think. This is what we have called the insight engine. So this is automatically generated, and it basically is taking a look at trends to see if there is anything that we can look at month over month. I'm not going to go through all of these because, as I say again, like the statistical relevance of these is not that relevant at the moment just because of the volumes, but still the kind of stuff that I'm hoping in the future becomes a lot more relevant. And actually, the section underneath I think is a little bit more, um, insightful than these kind of like high level kind of cards that we have here. But yeah, I guess one of the things that's worth noting, most things are on the up. I guess it's as we're a bit more established where we'll see, are things up or down. So I think more to come on this one in the near future. So yeah, now we have like listing priorities. So this is the bit that I think is the most relevant. So here again, it's saying about, it's taking a look at different dimension values that we've got here. So that will be the era, the finish, the Pokemon itself, the rarity or the set, and seeing, is there anything to focus on here? I think this is where, again, like with the Pokemon, we have the commonly known popular Pokemon. So you like your Eevees, you like your Gengars, you like your Pikachus. We all know that they charge a premium, but there might be some others that are flying slightly under the radar as you sell, but maybe it's not more, you're getting one every kind of like 5 to 10 days or something like that of the same Pokemon continually, so you don't notice it as much. Whereas your Pikachus, they can go out like hotcakes. So this is where I think it's potentially going to be a bit more interesting. Like you can see down here, like your sort of Haunters, Digletts, Riolus, even the Meowth there sticking out at the bottom. Something to think about. So I guess the biggest one here, looking at era, is talking about Mega Evolution. So it's saying the sell-through rate is high, had had a decent amount of the orders there. Sell-through rate 7.5%, and it's in the common, uncommons, and rares. So again, just kind of like reinforcing what we said before. Those newer sets, get them listed, try and get them prioritized for selling. Having said that, I do generally focus on the reverse hollows and hollows to get listed. So maybe that is having an impact on the sell-through rate. It's not really like the bulky bulk that I'm getting listed, but maybe that's something I need to review and change for coming months. Actually, no, I think I will do that. I think that's something I will do. I think I'll start listing the regular commons on commons from the newer sets. I'll prioritize them behind anything that's like yellow border. Anything that is Scarlet and Violet, I think I'll put straight onto Card Market, Card Trader, not necessarily bother with the kind of eBay listing for the regular commons. Reverse hollows, yeah, definitely get those up. I don't think there's necessarily like a huge priority or demand at the moment to get those necessarily straight onto eBay. Sun and Moon, maintain sell-through rate, drive demand, orders 19, sell-through rate 15.8. I mean, you can see here that even that is like double. Yeah, I think something interesting there. Reverse hollow, 24 of the orders reverse hollows, again high. So yeah, I think overall pretty strong there. Okay, so I think really that's kind of the main action that I think I've got from this report is to like really kind of reevaluate what I think about with the Mega Evolution sets and how I should perhaps get those listed a little bit quicker. And they will also, I guess, have the more likely to have the multi-quantity listings, which are worth investigating in or investing in a little bit more, I think. So, yeah, an interesting action point that I wasn't expecting necessarily from running through this, and then that's also the point of me kind of doing this as well, is to also see what I can potentially change in how I am approaching getting my cards listed onto different selling platforms we have.
Okay, so there we have it, our first monthly dashboard run through. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm also open to any feedback on the dashboard. I know there's still a lot of things that can be improved upon there, and also even my analysis or walking through it. But again, I think that's going to come more over time as we kind of grow this business and have more insights that we can actually look into. But yeah, if you also enjoyed it, feel free to subscribe. It'll help me out a great deal. And I guess I'll see you in a couple of weeks when we start to run through the August numbers. But yeah, thanks again. And ciao for now.